Hello and welcome to the United Mates Football Podcast. My name is Joe, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host all the way from LA, Keitel. We're also joined by a guest, and today's guest actually went to the same university that I did, Exeter University, and at the same time too. So a big welcome to the podcast to Abi Paterson. Abi is a radio and podcast producer for Muddy Knees Media, which is now part of The Athletic. And she's currently working on the likes of the Totally Football League show, Beyond the Headline, and the Football Manager show, a game Kai and I love a lot, and not to mention other non-football ventures too. Her work has also been recognised by her industry peers. Last year, she won a silver and bronze awards at the highly prestigious Audio Production Awards. So, Abi, thanks for joining us. How are you?
Gosh, that's you've done your research. I'm impressed. Yeah, I'm all right. Currently working on a Rangers documentary, which is, just an absolute mind headspace situation, trying to get that accurate, trying to get it, trying not to displease too many people, which is difficult or easy thing to do, I should say, in Scottish football. It'll be good when it comes out.
Well, yeah, good to have you on the podcast with us, Abi. And I suppose speaking of supporters groups, I guess, Rangers would be one that you definitely wouldn't want to upset. But we typically try to do an icebreaker every time we have a guest. So for today's icebreaker, we're going to kind of stick on that supporters groups theme. And I noticed on your Twitter recently that you either retweeted or commented on Ipswich Town being one of the first clubs to partner with the World Wildlife. Is it fund or foundation? I'm going to get that wrong. I remember back in the day, there was the issue with WWF, the wrestling and them. But anyway, so between the two of those, I've got it confused right now. But essentially what they did...
It's fighting giant pandas.
Exactly. In a steel cage, nonetheless. So for the Ipswich Town dealio, they kind of took the horse, the famous horse, off of their crest. And other clubs followed suit in kind of this homage to what life would be like without these wonderful animals. I remember as a kid, I think Ipswich Town was the first ever Arsenal game I went to. And obviously you're an Arsenal fan as well. So something that stuck out to me on that day was their mascot, the horse. I mean, it was just a guy. It wasn't a real horse. It was just a guy in a horse costume. But today's icebreaker is what...
Thank you for clarifying that one.
Well, actually over here in the States, a couple of the college teams do use actual animals, which is a bit bizarre. And I think even our rivals, I'm a Bruin at UCLA, but the Trojans, they do use an actual horse. But anyway, before I just continue to waffle, the question is, what are our favorite mascots? I'll start first to give you guys a bit more time to kind of think about your answers. But again, out here in the States, the Portland Timbers, the MLS team, have a lumberjack as one of their mascots. And I believe it's even changed over time. It used to be Timber Jim. Apparently it's Timber Joey. And they just have a felled tree pitch side that Timber Joey will take his chainsaw to every time the Timbers score, which is something you would definitely only see.
That's every time they score. I knew they did it. I thought it was like some sort of halftime entertainment, but yeah, I love it.
On that note, Abi, you can go first. Do you have a favorite sporting mascot?
I mean, I'm going to go. There are two ones actually that spring to mind. The obvious one from English football perspective is Boilerman. The fact that West Brom have a man dressed in an ideal boiler suit as their mascot is just baffling. Maybe they should take a leaf out of the Portland Timbers and do a boiler check at half time. That would be fascinating. As fascinating, or maybe whilst we're waiting for a VAR decision, something like that.
Yeah, just make sure no carbon monoxide present or something.
Yeah, I don't know what you're meant to do in a boiler check. I should probably do one. And then the other one is Partick Thistles, I believe, and Kingsley. If you want, if you don't know that doesn't spring to mind what it is, then do Google it, because it's like they've taken a child's drawing, and unlike Arsenal with the Gunnosaurus, where they've actually made it look like a dinosaur, Partick Thistle just took this slightly angry, spaced out sunshine, I think it's trying to be, and kept it exactly how the child wanted it to be, as though this child was holding some sort of ransom over them. It's pure mascot goodness.
It sounds like a sort of off-brand version of the son/baby from Teletubbies or something like that. But Joe,
it's Teletubbies after hours.
Yeah, up in Scotland as well. Joe, who would your favorite sporting mascot be?
Well, I feel like I have to mention Chirpy from Tottenham. He's a great mascot. And there's actually
Boo.
Mrs. Chirpy as well. But there's a couple now. Back when they walk around the pitch together. So yeah, they're the biggest mascot power couple going, I think. But then I think that the Boiler Man at West Brom is hilarious. So I think we've spoken a bit about mascots now, but time for a few personal questions for Abi about everything that she's getting up to these days. But let's go back to what you used to be doing a few years ago. And Abi, obviously, we were both part of Expression FM, which was the student radio station at Exeter University. So what I was interested to know was it Expression FM that inspired you to take the path that sort of led you to the career you find yourself on now? Or was this an ambition you sort of had before even being involved in student radio?
Yeah, way before student radio. It's kind of, I loved listening to the radio growing up, going to school, listening to Radio 1, and really enjoyed it. And then you get your work experience days that school make you go on. And so went to Garrison FM for a few days, really enjoyed it. And from there kind of joined the hospital radio, and got to, present a few shows, go out and, try and get the patients who are all a bit deaf and old anyway, to get some song requests from them. And then Expression FM was always something I was going to join once I'd landed at Exeter University. Everything I did at uni was geared towards getting into the radio industry, to the extent, or at least getting into the media industry. I studied history because I need a good fallback option if it didn't work out. My dissertation was very cheerily on the media representation of the Biafran famine during the Nigerian Civil War, 1967 to 70. Because I thought if I could at least do that, then I can convince people that I can be a journalist or I can do something like that. Like the history degree actually has some relevance to society today. And actually it did work out, because after leaving uni, when I got myself work experience at the BBC with the World Service, and so spent 2-3 weeks, I don't know, there, being a journalist, working night shifts, and doing all of that with their flagship program on the World Service. So that was very much, student radio was always geared towards getting me to where I am today, for sure.
Well, speaking of today, bringing things forward to the work that you do for Muddy Knees, and obviously more recently it's been acquired by The Athletic. So I kind of wanted to ask about that experience in terms of the new opportunities perhaps that's afforded you, and the transition. How's that been for you and the rest of the team?
Yeah, for me, it literally did not change what I was doing. I was still making pretty much the same podcasts. I was doing everything as I was before. And so, I was probably the least affected by everyone at Muddy Knees in that acquisition. 6 months on since then, I am doing some different things, like the Beyond the Headline, which mentioned at the top of the show. That wouldn't be necessarily something that we would have done had Muddy Knees remained as it was. So that's really fun, just to be able to do like some narrative style documentary podcasts, rather than just you kind of week in, week out what's happened on the pitch, off the pitch, in the EFL or whatever like that. So that's certainly afforded me some different opportunities. And also, I mean, in the most simple terms, it means that we get access to the athletics journalists, and there's a lot of them, and they all know their stuff inside out. So that's really cool that I get to do that now.
One more question on some of your production work, and question about kind of the variety of content that you produce between football stuff and non-football stuff. For instance, You're Dead to Me would be one of those non-football endeavors. But beyond the focus of the content itself, is there perhaps a different tone, or a different, maybe moral code isn't the right word, or just kind of a filter that goes along with producing a football show versus a different show where you've got two essentially kind of different demographics? Different things fly?
Yeah, so the Football League show that I do, it's very much, try and keep it as factual as possible, but I'm really interested in making sure that it's an entertaining program along the way. But the facts have to come first, and from there you kind of draw out what's the entertaining thing that we can do. So like on Monday's show at the end we played Warnock or McCarthy, who said it, because Mick McCarthy had his 1000th game in charge as a football manager. So it's a factual line, you tie it in, make it hilarious, put some he wants to be a millionaire tension music underneath it, and it's a nice way to end a show. But obviously, I do homeschool history, which is aimed at children. And so on Sunday afternoon, whilst everyone was watching the Manchester derby, I was sat in front of my computer listening to fart noises. No joke. I have a lot of fart noises now in my downloads folder, and just a lot of other weird ones. So for that one, I'm not really involved in like the creative process in the written way, but very much in putting in random sound effects, and also it's about knowing what kids do and don't know. So there's a couple of scripts had a song in, and I wasn't convinced that it would mean anything to the kids, but yeah. And then I've learned things about, like, I don't know, do you guys know the YouTube video Pineapple Pen? Like, I learned that during this thing, so and it got stuck in my head for a full week. It was very annoying. But yeah, it's just silliness, and that's actually really fun to do.
It does sound like a lot of fun, and actually, I don't think you could really have set me up better for this next bit. You mentioned the game with Mick McCarthy quotes, and I actually have a bit of a game for you and Joe.
You're not gonna. I was thinking you're about to fart or something.
Oh no!
I was gonna say, I was worried we were going.
Yeah, just one of you pull my finger virtually through this. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But no, essentially, I don't know if I'm going to risk copyright with kind of the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire music underneath, but otherwise, Abby, actually, I'll let you kind of kick off this section. You don't know it yet, but you're going to be the one to do that. Joe's mentioned a story or an anecdote about time you spent at TalkSport and a conversation, a brief one that you ended up having with Jose Mourinho, which is where this game is actually going to kind of take its origin. So if you wouldn't mind, in your own words, briefly kind of describing that encounter for us.
Yeah, I had asked my assistant producer to book our Manchester correspondent to talk about what Jose had said in the press conference, but he told the wrong time and told him an hour earlier, which was when the press conference was happening. And so I was frantically trying to call the reporter. I need him on air. I've got, I'm going to have to fill otherwise. And then I was like, right, well, his phone's not going through, so I'll give him a WhatsApp call. And the WhatsApp call, it turns out, breaks through the mode, the airplane mode on your phone. And it was the one good day that Jose Mourinho had as Manchester United boss. Any other time, any other press conference, I would probably be paying for a new phone for the reporter. But this was the one time that Jose Mourinho was in a good mood. And he picked up the phone. And I was producing, the show was live. I was doing this is what happens at TalkSport. You do 300 jobs at once. So I was producing the show, trying to call Dom, trying to get him on air. And so I just went, hi, Dom, can you come on the show right now? And just at the end, I could just hear this, hello. And I just was like, well, he can't hear me. Anyway, my boss, I sort of hung up on the phone and I was like, well, I'll just have to carry on. Dom's not there. And my boss then came into the studio and was like, you just spoke to Jose Mourinho, right? I was like, and actually everyone saw the funny side of things, and I now have just behind my computer here it was in the Sun the next day, and they made a little pun saying Abbey Days, and so that's now there for me to look at and remind me of that one fleeting moment of fame I had.
That was a lovely story. I'm kind of jealous. Although I think, it might be better not to know who you're speaking to on the other end of the line. If it is Mourinho, it could be quite an intimidating situation otherwise. On the note of speaking to Mourinho, or I suppose more so maybe Mourinho speaking to other people, I've got this game, and I feel like I want to call it Mo or No, or Yes or Mo, one of those two. I've got quotes from various managers, and between Joe and Abby, they're going to be letting me know if they think the quote's from a random manager or Jose Mourinho. If they get the fact that it's the other one, if they can actually guess specifically who said it, well, they'll get some extra points. But I want to kick it off with Abby, I think, and then I'll sort of rotate between the two of you to start each time. So the first quote is, young players are like melons, only when you open and taste the melon are you 100% sure that the melon is good. So, Abby, do you think that was a Mourinho quote or another manager who said that about melons?
Oh gosh, I'm like, if it's not Mourinho, I'm trying to think who would say that. Is it like a Pep kind of thing to say? I don't think Mourinho did say it, so I'm going to say Mourinho. No.
Okay.
And yeah, young players are like melons.
What I'll do is
yeah.
Once we determine if it was or wasn't, once we've figured that out, the bonus points will be up for grabs, and you can kind of have a stab in the dark at who it might have been. So I'll pass it off to Joe before we get the guesses going. Was this Mo or no?
I think it's no.
Okay. Well, we're not even going to have to bother with the guesses later because it was Mourinho. So no points for either of you. Who would have thought Mourinho was so passionate or knowledgeable about melons, but apparently he is. Moving on to the second one. Okay. I couldn't be more chuffed if I were a badger at the start of mating season. Joe, you can go first. Was that Mo or no?
Oh, I think I might know who said that. Well, I have an idea who might have said it. So
Okay,
I'm
we'll go with no, and then we'll see. All right, Abby?
There's no chance Mourinho's talking about badgers.
Definitely melons, but not badgers. No, you're both right. You're both right. I guess you got 3, 2, 1, and then you can both say it, and if one of you gets it right. So 3, 2, 1, who do you think it is?
Ian Holloway.
McCarthy.
It was Ian Holloway. So Joe gets I guess 2 points. Abby's got 1 point. So
yeah, it felt very Ian Holloway-esque, that.
It was a very Ollie quote. All right. Question or quote number 3. This one goes to Abby first. For me, the real age is not the age on your ID. That's just a date when you were born. Was that Mo or no?
For me, the real age is not the age when you were born. Oh.
Yeah, it's a bit of a mind bender, this one.
I don't even know what they're trying to say. Oh gosh, Mourinho. Would Mourinho have said that? For me, the real age is not the age on the ID. It's a number. Yeah, why not?
Okay, so Mo, Joe?
Jose.
Jose.
I'll go no, just so you know there's a bit of, I just can't imagine him saying it, but he does say weird stuff. So
apparently he said it, so Abby's evened it up at 2 each. Next one. It's like having a blanket that is too small for the bed. You pull the blanket up to keep your chest warm and your feet stick out. I cannot buy a bigger blanket because the supermarket is closed, but the blanket is made of cashmere. Mo or no?
I'm going to say Mo.
All right, Abby?
Again, in the interest of being interesting, I'm going to say no.
Well, it is Mo who had the opinions on the I'm not even sure, to be honest with you, what he was that analogy was about. Presumably not having good enough players or not having enough players. But that's what, 3-2 to Joe. Moving on. This one's going to go to Abby first. I tried to watch the Tottenham match on television in my hotel yesterday, but I fell asleep. Was that Mo or no?
That's everybody that's ever watched a Tottenham match in a hotel. That's but I fell asleep. Yeah, no, got it. It's got to be. Well, I think you've put that in there as like a curveball because he's the current Spurs manager, so definitely Mo.
Yeah, that wouldn't have aged well, I guess. Joe?
No, I don't think he said that.
No, he didn't. Luckily for him, he did not. But Joe and Abby, do you have any idea who might have said it on 3? 1, 2, 3.
Jamie O'Hara.
Chris Wilder.
It was Arsene Wenger, apparently. But moving on.
I wonder what the context of that was.
The context was, watching Spurs and finding it boring. Moving on to the next one.
Context.
Look, I'm a coach. I'm not Harry Potter. He is magical. But in reality, there is no magic. Magic is fiction. And football is real. Joe, Mo or no?
Yeah, he seems to go on a bit, Mourinho. So yeah, why not? He said it.
All right. Abby?
Oh, you're saying all these quotes and I'm like, oh, I do recognize that. And then can I pinpoint who said it? Look, not Harry Potter. I don't know. No, I don't. I mean, he probably does know who Harry Potter is, but I'm just not sensing that he's a Harry Potter kind of guy. So yeah, no.
Whether or not he likes the books, he did say that. So presumably, I guess he is a bit of a fan.
Definitely a Slytherin.
All right, Joe, I think is pulling ahead. Abby, we'll start with you. Some people might be frustrated with that result. Some people can F off.
That is Mourinho.
Okay, not Mourinho. Joe?
Yeah, I'm going no as well. I think I might know who it is.
I do know
on,
who this
on
one is.
3 then. 1, 2, 3. Who was it?
McCarthy.
Yeah, Abby got in there first. That's the extra point. And I think considering
my research on Monday has finally paid off.
it came full circle, but we've got the last one here. So I think if I've been keeping track, Joe might be 1 point ahead. So it's going to be a question of equalizing or game over. So
it's the 97th minute, and I'm on the
goal,
edge of the
box.
box.
Come up for the corner, guys.
Yeah.
So here we go, and I'm going to give it to. I think, what did I say? Joe will go first this time. So when an Italian tells me it's pasta on the plate, I check under the sauce to make sure. They are the inventors of the smokescreen. Joe, Mo or no?
I'll go with Mo.
Okay, and Abby?
Well, I have to say no here, just to because if he's right, then whatever, and if he's wrong, then I've got to have a different answer here.
Well, Joe was wrong, so it's tied up. And obviously, as it wasn't Mourinho, if either one of you can guess who it was, you're going to win this thing. So,
again, I know the quote. I've heard the quote. Do I know who said the quote?
We'll find out. 1, 2, 3.
Roberto Mancini.
Pep Guardiola.
Oh, you've gone for 2 former Citizens managers, and it's actually our former Red Devils manager, the most famous manager probably in the history of the game, Sir Alex, who apparently decided that he would throw a spanner in Scottish-Italian relations by accusing the Italians of inventing the smokescreen. But I think that was a tied game, so we kind of like a tied game. Don't have to let anyone down. So well done, both of you. That was Mo or no.
Good game.
Moving on from that game to a bit of Arsenal chat, which is Joe's favorite topic, of course. But no, Abby, you're a fellow Gooner. Arsenal these days have kind of gone through a bit of a turbulent period with Arteta. Seemingly things are maybe moving in the right direction. I don't know, maybe you can tell me. But otherwise, more specifically, looking back, we've had such a plethora of fantastic players to choose from over the years. At the minute, not so much maybe. So
Emmanuel Aboué was a great player.
You've answered my question, I guess. Yeah. No, but if you were to be able to take a Gooner from past teams and slot them into this current side, who would it be and why? You can either, I guess, take whatever approach you'd like, but I'm thinking mostly from a kind of what this team needs as opposed to just like, let's get Thierry Henry.
Yeah, I saw this on Twitter the other day. It said you can take Henry, Perez, Vieira, possibly in Lundberg. I can't remember who the fourth one, probably Adams or something like that, and put them in the team now. Who would you choose and why? And it's got to be we're missing the attacking link between the defense and moving forward. We can kind of we've got that playing it out from the back thing, and then there's just that missing piece to bring it forward. That was the theme of the entirety of the summer. Was, do you go for I think it's pronounced Ua, or do you go for Partey? Do you sort of shore up the defense, or do you get an attacking flair player? And therefore, with that in mind, I do think that Vieira is the option. I think you need that kind of player that can just control the midfield, that is a clear is a clear leader that players will be comfortable turning to, because I'm not sure that Aubameyang is kind of performing that role very well. He's certainly not doing what he's meant to do and scoring goals, scoring 20 a season plus at the moment, and so kind of take the weight off his shoulder of being a captain, give it back to 2004 Vieira, and that might start the rebuild and get us back into top 6, top 4, and maybe eventually champions. But yeah, it's got to be the midfield that is the weakest link in Arsenal.
That's a good shout. I guess maybe we'll bring Joe in on this as an outsider, if not, definitely not a neutral, if anything, a rival. What do you think this Arsenal team could use? And don't take the piss.
Gareth Bale.
Yeah, you could use quite a lot. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. Yeah, Vieira's a good shout because obviously he would provide leadership and he was a brilliant midfielder. I mean, it is. I know you said earlier, you can't look past Henry. It's hard to really look beyond him. But then I guess, I can't say Sol Campbell because he doesn't exist as a person. So I'm going to have to say maybe a Tony Adams or something like that. Maybe some leadership from the back. Maybe I'll whisper it quietly, but someone like Sol Campbell might sort out your defence.
Bring him in as coach.
Yeah, well, I'm sure he'd
be laughing. He'd love that. Otherwise, I think just from my point of view, goals from midfield or assists from midfield. So someone like a Fabregas or a Bergkamp, for instance. But I think all of these names that we've mentioned would not only do wonders for this team, but any one of them would instantly be the best player in Arsenal's current side if you were to sort of put them in there. That's kind of the state of play these days.
Yeah, I think you're right. And sort of, I guess going on from that, obviously, Abi, it's been a strange season for Arsenal, which there's been some quite bad runs of form. There's been some, good spells as well in more recent times. But I guess the point I'm making in your time as an Arsenal fan, have you ever experienced a season quite like this one? And I guess more than that, is Arteta the right manager to take Arsenal forward in the long run?
I think he is still the right man. I'd like to give him that time. I don't know whether I'm being optimistic and trying to draw parallels with Steven Gerrard at Rangers, but Gerrard needed 3 seasons to get his manifesto in place, get his players playing the way he wanted, and importantly to get the players that he needed to be able to make that work. And and Arteta's had half a season, and now what's happened of this season so far, and this has been in a pandemic, so it's really difficult to judge anything right now. Yes, you can say that United and City are doing well, and West Ham, and everyone's been in the same circumstances. But yeah, I think I still want to give Arteta the time and the belief, because I think he's clearly got some good ideas. He's clearly got a good background. He's a Pep student. So, and what's Pep Guardiola ever won? So I would hope that in the long run that he can get his message across, that he can get the right players in to do that. I mean, this season has been coming. We're in 10th. It's the worst season we've had, certainly since I've been supporting them. But it feels, I don't know, I think it would be a more weird season almost if Arsenal were challenging for the title, because it's been, 2004 was the last title we won. And we're out of the FA Cup this season, which is always like a good fallback option. It feels more normal at the moment to be supporting a team that is not challenging for the title than this team that was, under the early years of Arsene Wenger, winning trophies.
I think maybe I'm too far in the camp of having written off this Premier League, definitely the Premier League side of the season already. But I don't know. I feel strangely, whether or not optimistic that things are going to, instantly turn around, I'm still positive. I'm rather have Arteta than Emery, and I'd rather have Arteta than Wenger towards the end of the Wenger era as well. So we'll see how it goes. But we started this Arsenal chat by touching on some players that Arteta doesn't have at his disposal that he would be lucky to call upon. But we're going to focus on some players that he does have that previous Arsenal managers never would have, because it's the youth crop of today, which is a fantastic Hale End kind of situation. Throw in some players like Martinelli as well. What do you make of this current crop of youngsters compared to some other kind of celebrated groups that we've seen in the past? Players like Fabregas, like Bentner, like Alex Song. Less of them were kind of English players. I guess on that end of things, it would be something like a Wilshere, but we're quite in a unique situation in recent times where we've got Smith Rowe, Saka, Nelson and Willock, all these kind of young English players. And then I mentioned Martinelli as well. Where do you think these guys will end up standing in Arsenal fans' eyes?
I think Saka is already up there. I think Smith Rowe is probably as well. Like those two together have turned around this season. And I remember I think it was I think his surname is pronounced De Roche, right of The Athletic, just constantly week after week being like, look at Smith Rowe, he's doing so well in the Europa League, stick him in the Premier League, he is that missing link that we need. And lo and behold, he was right. And of course, the one name that you haven't mentioned there that has been on the Arsenal books for a while, and we took from Chelsea, that has been so much written about him, so much expectation, and yet is yet to fulfill it, is Eddie Nketiah. He's become the forgotten youngster, I think, this season. You'll see there was a big Leeds move last season that didn't work out. He was brought back halfway through because Leeds weren't using him, and there's just seems so much hype around him, and it's just not quite clicking in. But he scored a few goals in the last 10 minutes of games to snatch us a couple of points here and there. But there's so much hope around him, and I think maybe just another loan move out where he is actually playing football will be helpful. It's great to see Joe Willock, getting in a bit, got a couple of goals, hasn't he? Or his goal and assist at Newcastle. He went there in January. I think he's a bright prospect, as is Reece Nelson. I think it's great to actually finally be able to have some English players to get excited about at Arsenal, because so much was there were no English players for so long, and it was like, what is this club doing in England? Yeah, is that just I don't know, nationalistic, patriotic thing that you're more inclined to support and want your homegrown talent to do better? And the one player I haven't touched on yet is Martinelli, who I just love. My friend and I went to Arsenal versus Forest in the EFL Cup last season, and we just had a great time. I think it was Martinelli who scored goals. It was like 5-0, and it was all the youngsters out in the EFL Cup, and it was great times. Obviously it didn't last, but it was fun whilst it lasted.
Yeah, I've been flying the Smith Rowe flag for a long time now. The Athletic, if you're listening. Yeah.
I was doing a podcast at the start of the season called Next Big Thing, and trying to choose a different youngster in various clubs, and Smith Rowe was the one that we focused on at Arsenal. And so it's great to sort of have that accurate prediction come true. And so go and listen to that podcast. That's The Next Big Thing, if you want to find out more about Emile Smith Rowe.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm a Spurs fan, so I don't want to big up Arsenal youngsters too much, but Saka is obviously always one of the best youngsters in England. And then, Smith Rowe looks very good as well. I'm not personally the rest of them. I mean, Martinelli, he's good too, but the rest
just needs to not be injured. That's all we want. That
small part, the others not so sure about. But we do have a final little section, a final couple of questions for Abi, and these are about women's football actually. So Abi is someone who you've produced podcasts in recent seasons. I know the Offside Rule, which is all about women's football. So I was just interested to know, do you believe in the last few years, I guess especially since the World Cup that took place in 2019, that women's football is gaining the popularity it needs to take it to the next level? And I guess as well, on a wider point, what do you even make of the term women's football itself? Is this bad terminology, or is it actually something that does the term women's football not bother you? Because I know that's a debate in itself too.
It doesn't bother me. It is women's football. And then maybe, if you want to be really pedantic, call it men's football. It's the men's, but women's football. I mean, it is women's football. I'm not gonna argue against it, but or saying that it should just be all football. But what I do like is that clubs like Arsenal have dropped. They're not Arsenal women anymore. They are just Arsenal. And I think that's a really good statement to have. As for the popularity, I mean, pre-pandemic, we saw massive crowds, more and more increasing, going to women's games. I was at the Spurs Stadium, which pains me to say is very nice, for the first North London derby in the WSL. Spurs taking on Arsenal. It was 1-0 to the Arsenal. 1-0, 2-0. I can't remember. We won. Anyway, and that was a record attendance. And I think it would have carried on and on had the pandemic not happened. And I think maybe the pandemic is a bit of a blessing in disguise in a way, because I think people will just be itching to get back to football. And not care too much about which one it is. It's just that being around a crowd of people all kind of enjoying that's the same spectacle we've missed it. That's for sure. And we've got the Women's Euros coming up next year. Next year, and that's here, and that's inevitably going to make it even bigger and better. We've just signed up to get early news about tickets, but was disappointed that Wembley is only hosting the final. I thought maybe we've missed a trick by not having more games at bigger stadiums. The opening match is at Old Trafford, and then the finals at Wembley, but all the other games are not being held at grounds with a big potential capacity, which I do understand because it's not everyone's cup of tea, which is silly because it's the same game. But I think we might have missed a trick there. But we wait and see what happens.
Yeah, no, you're right. Perhaps there has been a trick missed there, but I think you're right actually about maybe once fans can get back into crowds, into grounds even, it could actually, like you said, be a potential blessing in disguise. I know I just want to go back and watch football. I don't really care. Yeah. I don't really care who's playing. I guess my follow-up question would be then, again, just sticking on women's football, is there anything about women's football, perhaps about the nature or the product of women's football, that you actually prefer to the men's game, or anything that you think the men's game could learn from women's football? Maybe
don't roll about on the floor screaming so much, Lacazette. It's just a lot friendlier. It's not, I love on social media, there is such a fantastic community about the women's game in general. And I really just, everyone's kind of happy to talk about it on these kind of friendlier terms. It's less tribal, but perhaps because there's still a growing fan base there. But I think it's just a much nicer environment. And it's, I think that's, I appreciate that for sure. I'm not a massive master tactician when it comes to football, but I certainly know people like Michael Cox really like watching the women's game because it is more technical and it's more tactical in that sense. And I think if that's certainly something that maybe should be advertised a bit more, and making people aware of that. Yes, it might be a wee bit slower, but it's still that same. You've still got the same puzzle to solve, haven't you? How do I beat the opponent in front of me? And it's just the different ways around doing that. That's why we love the game, is because we enjoy watching it. It doesn't matter if it's women or men who are playing it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to hopefully getting to some live fixtures sooner rather than I'm over here in the States where they've just, I think it might be launching, I can't remember if it's this year or coming next year, Angel City, which is like a new LA women's soccer team, I should say.
All of the celebrities.
Yeah, pretty much. They have all these people endorsing it currently. So, it should, probably hit the ground running in that sense, and there'll be a good kind of capacity or whatnot, a good crowd. I'm just imagining in England, people so starved of having been to games that you'll just see some ultras rocking up at a women's football match with some flares and just getting as drunk as they possibly can to try and cram in a year's worth of just being rowdy into as soon as they can get it. But we've got one final question on women's football and on Arsenal. It's a bit of a twofer in that sense. And obviously Arsenal, more so than the men's team, the women's team have been really just a Goliath, super successful over the past couple decades. More recently, Chelsea and Man City have kind of come to the forefront, and so it's a bit more of an even fight at the top. But given their kind of consistent levels of success and achievement, is there anything from the model that you've noticed at the Arsenal, not women's, just we've decided that already, they don't use that term anymore, but we'll just say for the sake of it, the Arsenal women's football team, is there anything from that model that the men's side could take a look at and learn from?
Well, the key is to win trophies. They had all the best players. At the end of the day, at that time, it was just they had the star players, and good players having the best players gets you the trophies, gets you the wins. At the moment, though, the Arsenal team do not have the best players, and they don't have a lot of players, and so the lack of depth in the Arsenal women's side at the moment is really being put on show. And I think Arsenal might even finish fourth this season, because Man United have been phenomenal under Casey Stoney. She has really what Man United have managed to do in 3 years is really helped the women's game and really, blown it apart. It's not just a 2-horse race; it's a 4-horse race now to the title. Arsenal men need Kim Little and Jordan Nobbs in their side. Maybe just as they are, maybe just stick them in. I think that'd be okay. That is what the Arsenal men's team is missing, those link-up players and the little crafty ones that can just ignite a move. And I think that is what the Arsenal men need to find, is little knobs.
Well, even Maidema, she's not bad either. She's like a goal machine. I'd take her as well.
I'm sorry, I'm really loving like the American and the Brit, not the difference in the humour there with my little knobs trick.
Oh yeah. Honestly, everything is over my head. Everything. It doesn't matter. I'm from England anyway, so I have no excuse. Anyway, well, I guess
You've been in America too long, clearly.
Yeah, no, and then some. But I'll press you, while you've made a prediction that you think potentially the women's side might finish 4th. What do you make, just in a snapshot, projecting Arsenal, the men's side's rest of the season, Europa League and Premier League?
It's going to be turgid, and I'm very worried that we're not even going to finish in the top half of the table. I think 10th is probably the best we can aim for at the moment if West Ham and carry on the way that they are, although Villa are stumbling up a bit at the moment, so that's probably a little seed of hope. But just top half is kind of the best we can hope for now, and I even just saying that, I'm not even confident. I'd love it if we could harness that FA Cup final run from last season and into the Europa League this season. I was watching the last round against whoever it was, and I've already forgotten because it was that bad. And it was Benfica, and it was just worrying. I don't trust this Arsenal side. I'd like to be proven wrong though.
Well, I hope you were proven right, Abby. But on that,
thanks, Joe.
On that note, that does bring us to the end of today's show. So a big thanks to my co-host Keitel, and of course a special thank you to our brilliant guest Abby as well. So we hope you enjoyed yourself, and also how can our listeners follow you and keep up to date with everything you're doing, Abby?
They can find me on Twitter at Abi Paterson. That's ABI, and then Patterson with 1 T, because I like to make it difficult to find me. And that is where I will be tweeting all of the podcasts I'm making. So that is probably the easiest way to go about if you want to listen to anything I've ever made.
Brilliant. Fantastic. Well, please do follow Abby and all the cool stuff she's working on at the moment. And also, whilst you're following Abby, follow us as well. So we're on Instagram, Twitter and Facebook at United Mates FP. And then we're also on YouTube as well. So you just have to type United Mates Football Podcast into YouTube, and then you'll find us there. And if you want, you can subscribe too. That is all for now. Thank you very much and goodbye.